Okay, hello everyone. It's great to have you all on board. Another time with Tutor.io, the fantastic tutor. And in today's tutorial, it's going to be a continuation of our course CSS381, and we have been talking about VD to some large extent now. But like I advise, a lot of things can be discussed on the live stream. We have to restrict it to our private Telegram class, which is exclusively for students in the private class. And so today we're going to be taking some points as well. We're discussing some things. For those of us who are new to the stream, let's ensure to use the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also most importantly, let's do also reach out to tutorial today as regards to joining the private class. And how you go about that is just go to our official website www.tutorial.net. Use the WhatsApp button in the top right hand corner. Send us a direct message. With this being said, let's go straight into it. Okay. So we're taking the course CSS381, and it's been a very interesting one on this course. You know, it has a lot to do with reality, and we have been dissecting a lot of things on the course. Yeah, so I can see the comment section is a little bit active. I can see Mr. Emmy saying, "Good evening, wonderful. Good evening. It's great to have you on board." So we are trusting that others will join as we continue, as we move into as we continue with the class today. Now, like I said, this course is a very interesting course, and it has a lot to do with reality. Okay, it's a very interesting course, and it has a lot to do with reality. And as we have been taking the class, we just have to mind some words. And like I usually say, on this channel, what we teach is purely educational. We don't instigate violence or encourage it. What we teach is purely educational. So we want to look at how to reduce or how to control DV. All right. So we have controlling DV. Okay. Now, when we talk about, we already know what DV is. All right. So how do we control it? All right. It is not possible to eliminate it once and for all, in as much as we have people living among or with each other. We definitely have misunderstandings. There will definitely be conflict. All right. So how can you now control DV? Now, when we say controlling DV, we want to consider certain tactics. Okay. Controlling DV has to do with consideration of certain tactics. Okay. Now, these tactics, we will start from the very first one that talks about physical tactics. Okay. One of the ways to control DD is through with physical tactics. Now, by doing this, we are simply, all right, talking about physical activities. Okay. We are simply talking about physical activities that discourages DV. Okay. We are simply considering physical activities that discourages DV. Okay. So now, one thing you must put into consideration is that, okay, one thing you must put into consideration is that before we talk about controlling, all right, it is of great interest that we talk about some of the things, some of the actions perpetrated by the abusers. All right. Some of the actions perpetrated by the abusers, and some of these actions under it, there are different tactics. All right, perpetrated by the abusers of DV. All right. So some of these actions are the physical tactics. We also have under the physical tactics. This is when we talk about when the abuser is being physical on the victim. All right. We also have the emotional or psychological tactics. Emotional, all right, or psychological tactics. These are all the tactics used by abusers, all right, in order to inflict injury on the victim. So we also have threats as well. So we discussed earlier. Now, these are the tactics. So let's move straight ahead to how they can actually be controlled. All right. Now, the controlling of DV is basically the responsibility of the law. All right. There are certain laws that kicks the all right perpetrating of abuses on victims. All right. So it is solely the responsibility of the law to control the DV. Okay. And by doing this, this is to discourage, all right, laws that serves as deterrent, discourage the abusers or whosoever intends to be an abuser of uh to be a perpetrator of DV. Okay, so now with that on that, let's talk about the roots, all right, of DV, the root causes. So we have root causes of DV. Now, when we say the root causes of DV, there are two important things we need to consider here. All right? There are two important theories we need to consider here. These are the psychological and the social theory. The psychological and the social, the psychological and the social theory. These are the two things we need to consider. Now, when we talk about the psychological theory, you need to put into consideration personality traits and mental characteristics. All right. Why is this person an abuser? Why is this person a perpetrator of DV? You want to consider his personality trait, all right, and his mental characteristics. All right. So under the psychological theory, we have the personality trait and his mental characteristics. And also under the social theory, here we consider external factors. All right. Could it be as a result of certain things that this person is exposed to that has led into becoming the perpetrator of DV? All right. So these are the two major root causes of DV. These are the two major theories that explains the root causes of DV. Okay. So let's proceed as we discuss further on this. Now, according to what we have here, just a moment. Okay. Now it says here, it also says here that DV can also be a learned behavior, a behavior that you learn. All right. DV can also be a learned behavior. All right. DV is modeled by individuals, institutions, and society, which may influence this perspective of children, adults, and so on. Now, abuse and DV can be learned through, all right, certain routes, all right, through childhood observation, all right, exposure, through childhood observation, and exposure to certain things, okay, through childhood observation. All right, probably this individual went through a series of terrible childhood while growing up. This could, all right, make such individual learn or model all the experiences while growing up, could change the mentality and model such an individual into becoming the perpetrator of DV. Okay, so we also want to consider living in a culture of violence. All right, for a child that grows up in an environment whereby it is violence morning, violence for breakfast, violence for lunch, and violence for dinner, it is said that such such behavior will model the child's mentality and form the child into becoming a perpetrator of DV. Okay, so those are the things that can model or route to how the DV can be learned. So now we have that as that. So very quickly, I want us to consider the genesis. Just a moment. Okay. Now, I want to quickly consider certain things. All right. I said something the other time. I said that DV, victims of DV, go through a lot. And sometimes you wonder why. Why not just leave this relationship? Or why not just leave this environment? Or why not just leave this association that is causing you so much pain that you experience DV every now and then? Now, there's an explanation to that. Okay? There's an explanation to that. Just a moment. Now, the basic explanation to that is that there are certain barriers to living an AR. All right. When we say AR, we're talking about abusive relationship. All right. There are some barriers. All right. So to barriers to living. All right. To living an AR. So let's consider some of the barriers very quickly. Okay. This is one course I want us to finish this week. With one more class on this course, I'm pretty sure we are going to call it a wrap on the course. All right. So now, let's consider some of the barriers. Why? Why does it seem so difficult for some persons? Why does it look almost impossible for people in this situation to just move on with their life and part ways with AR? Now, when we first consider, most commonly asked question about victims of DV is, why do they stay? Okay. Now, it says family, friends, co-workers, and community professionals who try to understand the reason why a victim of DV has not left the AR often feel perplexed and frustrated. Now, some of the victims of DV do leave their violent partners while others leave and return at different points throughout the the AR. Now, living a VR is a process, not an event, right? So living a AR is a process. Living and is a process, not an event. There's a lot, if you can cross the T's and dot the I's between these sentence. There's a lot that goes in between. Okay, a lot that goes in between. It's a process and not an event. There's a lot that goes through process, not an event. Okay. Now, it says here some of the reasons why, some of the barriers to living are number one, we have fear. Okay, just we're going to mention just few of them, as there are many more. We have fear. Perpetrators commonly make threats to victims. All right, there are threats. Perpetrators usually make threats to victim that you can't leave this and that, and basically just not allowing the victim or the captured to leave. So we have the use of threats. So this gets the victim scared. Okay, the use of threats gets the victim scared. We also have isolation, the fear of isolation. Okay, the fear of being alone. One effect tactic abusers use to establish control over victims is to isolate them from any support system other than the primary intimate relationship. All right, in a relationship whereby your partner does not want you to associate with outsiders, all right, cutting all supplies coming from outside, cutting it off and making it seem as if is your beginning and your ending, your all in all, is another barrier. You can imagine somebody that has been cut from any supply from outside except from that relationship. So if that person should do that relationship, how will the person survive? All right, so that's one of the barriers we have there. And we also have financial dependency. Financial dependency. Okay, financial dependency. That's one of the reasons. So there's a lot that goes into just living an AR. So we have that as that. So very quickly, I want us to touch on some of the impact of DV on its victim. Some of the impact of DV, we have issues like anxiety, all right? Issues like anxiety, issues like depression, emotional withdrawal. These are the end result of DV on its victim. They feel emotionally withdrawn. They are unnecessarily scared. All right. Anxiety, emotional withdrawal. All right. Impulsiveness. All right. Impulsiveness. They feel helpless. All right. It's a very serious thing. And we don't pray for such at all on any of our family and friends. Right? And for those that are going through this AR, we pray that they find their way soon out of it, because it is something else entirely on your mentality, on your personality, and lots more. So we have that as that. So I had wanted us to take this in our next class, the history of, all right, the history of DV. I wanted us to take this in our next class so that we can cover it properly. And hopefully, we should be able to do justice to the course by Friday. I think the next class we're having this course is by Friday. So I want to give us an assignment so we can do something of this. I want to dissect properly the history, all right, the history of DV. So assignment in your words, explain explain why victims of DV refuses to leave, all right, the AR. In your words, explain why victims of DV refuses to leave the AR. Okay, so we have that as that. So here we'll call it wrap for today. Thank you very much, everyone. I believe we're able to get something in today's class. Please let's ensure to submit our notes and assignments to the appropriate quarters. And for those of us who haven't joined the private class yet, we are missing out a lot because we are going to be functioning throughout the course of the semester, and we're going to be giving you all you need to set up with for your forthcoming exam, talking about the practice questions, talking about the exam killers, talking about your regular classes. All you need to do is just go to our official website, www.tutorial.net, to join the private class. You find that WhatsApp button on the top right hand corner. Use the WhatsApp button, take directly to tutorials DM, and you can make an inquiry on how to join the private class. I look forward to you all to explain tutorials. Bye for now.